Well, now you can. Facebook.com/Fishin' Canada to learn more about your favorite outdoor shows, Fishin' Canada Television, and Outdoor Journal Radio. Search the archive and download hundreds of radio episodes. Like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter at ODJ Radio. And of course, listen live, the Outdoor Journal Radio Show. More than ever, your definitive guide to the great outdoors.
Welcome back to the program. Outdoor Journal Radio, Sportsnet 590, The Fan, Angelo, Viola, Joseph Gorskowski behind the glass today. Our very own lovely Stephen Labadie is out fishing with a buddy. Maybe he'll call in a live report. Tell us how he's doing. Who knows?
Fishing report.
Yeah. Brett Armstrong, Jonathan, how you doing? Albanese on the other side, keeping us on the straight and narrow. It's going to be a tough one to steer through today, boys. Mr. Winters has planted lots of little mines. Open water mines. Keep an eye on those. Kayaking was in Bonikowski's report, and how coincidental was that? Because first of all, I came back from ICAST last week, and I told you that kayak actually won Best of Show, which has never happened before. But more importantly, in the new product display area that normally is filled with rods and reels and terminal tackle and fishing lines and lures and electronics and all that stuff. Well, it seemed like about half of the area was kayak and kayaks in general, and fishing kayaks and kayaks with accessories and all kinds of goodies. So how appropriate that we have on the program this morning Andre Savoie, who is the product manager for Pelican International, Canada's premier Pelican kayak builders in Quebec and Laval. Good morning, Andre. How are you?
Good morning. Angelo. Pretty good. I'm not one of your mine and your
no
minefield that you have this morning.
No, you ain't seen nothing yet, buddy. You just keep listening to the program. You'll know what I mean. No, not at all. First of all, congratulations to your whole industry this year at ICAST. Boy, you guys have come of age. I know. This was my 28th consecutive ICAST show that I've attended, and I can tell you kayaks have never been a big part of it. This year, it looked like a kayak show, and that's great news.
It's been pretty good to see the growth of kayak fishing in the last 4 or 5 years. It's a place in our business that's growing very, very quickly. It's very fun to watch.
Yeah, and there's a number of reasons that we'll cover that I think it has achieved this success. But before we get to that, now, was I accurate in saying Canada's only kayak manufacturer is Pelican?
Pelican is actually the biggest kayak manufacturer in the world. So
Whoa!
We build a over 300,000 kayaks a year here in Quebec. So.
Wow. I didn't know that. Nobody put that on my sheet here. My producer, John Winters.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to that. I've known the brand for years. I've seen it around, and of course now, as you just mentioned, you're leading the world, and certainly in Canada, I don't think there's a paddling store that doesn't have a kayak made by you in it. So hats off to that. Now, the new product this year, or the most, where they have the new product awards at the ICAST show, was also a fishing kayak. And I don't know whether it was one of yours or not, to be honest with you. But for your industry to win that's quite an achievement as well.
And it's been, like you mentioned, it was the first time. It's actually the second time. 2 years ago, another kayak fishing was the show winner kayak from Old Town, the Predator. So it's been something that's been well received, and ICAST is probably the best forum for a company like ours to go see and feel what's happening in the fishing world.
Yeah,
it's 500,000 square feet of fishing goodies. So it's great to go there to see what's happening, and it's also probably the best place to talk to people that are passionate about fishing and get their feedback, because one thing that fishermen love to do is talk about fishing.
Yep.
So going there for people in industry like us is to get tons of information about what people want to have in a fishing craft and what we can do to improve our kayaks, and that shows with the sales we have in the popularity of kayak fishing.
Yeah, and it astounds me because at a time in our evolution as anglers, when we seem to be wanting more power, bigger boats, 300 horsepower Mercs on the back and speeds, touching 100 miles per hour as bass anglers and whatnot. It's funny that during that era, we're also seeing this magnificent, and I'll call it that because it's a very interesting vessel, the kayak, but we're also seeing it sort of flourish and bounce to the surface in the angler's world. What do you attribute this incredible popularity in kayak fishing?
There's many things, but first of all, the people have been fishing and hunting from kayaks for centuries. So it's not a new toy, a new tool to go fishing. It's been used for a long time. There's a connection between fishing and motor and power and all that kind of. It's true, but the other side of the coin is with the price of the equipment that you buy, it's more expensive to run a boat and everything.
Oh, sure.
The fact that you can buy a watercraft and go fishing for less money is very appealing to people that most of them can start with the sport. The other thing that is very happening with the kayak is the fact that you can access any water sports or any lake very easily. You don't need a ramp to put a kayak in the water. So you just need to have about like a clearing of 5 feet, and there you go. You can go fishing. So the access to bigger area to go fishing is one of the main reasons why people go fishing in kayaks.
Have they become more angler friendly? Are they more stable? Do they have more to offer anglers? Have you guys started designing them, more with the angler in mind?
It's like the major difference between the regular kayak, which is sitting kayak, and the fishing kayak is that's a sit on top. So the cockpit is actually open. So it becomes more of a fishing platform than actually being confined inside of a kayak. So the deck is wider. There's a larger area to stand because like 5 or 10 years ago, thinking about standing up in a kayak to fish was ludicrous.
Right.
And right now it's the norm. People go fishing, they stand up in the kayak and they cast around. So the boats are wide enough and stable enough to be able to stand in them and easily access any place in the lake and just stand up and fish.
I actually saw a kayak with a live well, believe it or not, which is kind of cool. And I also saw a kayak with an electric motor that was kind of built into the back end of this thing with a battery.
Yeah, there's actually pedals as well that go in kayak. There's all kind of a propulsion system that are included in kayak fishing.
What are they made of? Is it? Are we right in saying it's plastic?
That's the way to see it. It's actually high density polyethylene.
Right.
So it's very it's probably the most durable material you can find. Some of the kayaks are also made in ABS, which is another the actual pipe that you use for your plumbing. So it's high density plastic that is molded and shaped in the form of a kayak.
And is there a good, medium, and bad material, or is there in terms of price point and quality, are there things that people should look for in the building materials?
It can range. Like the actual material is pretty much like the polyethylene. High density polyethylene is pretty much what you find in angler kayaks.
Yep.
That's the common material that we use. We have a process at Pelican that has a higher density because of our production system. So the sheet that we use are a bit thinner for the same kind of durability. So our kayaks are lighter than the competition. So that's something that if you carry a kayak around, having a kayak that is 80 pounds instead of 90 or 60 pounds instead of 70, that's a big difference if you carry it around.
Actually, I was gonna ask you about that because I've done a bit of kayaking, but I certainly would not say that I'm an expert by any means. But I have spent a lot of time in canoes, especially in the outback and the wilderness areas, portaging them and carrying them. Are kayaks a good alternative to somebody, say, who is going to be portaging into Algonquin Park, for example?
Being lighter, that's easier to carry around.
Yeah.
Depending on the distance that you have to carry, I would say that there's an adaptation to how to carry a kayak compared to a canoe. But weight-wise, it's certainly an advantage to have less weight to carry around when you portage, that's for sure.
And why do you say it's harder to carry?
Well, in a canoe, you can get your head inside of the canoe and put it over your shoulder. So you have to learn how to put the kayak on your shoulder and carry it around.
Okay. But it is lighter.
So it's a small adaptation to how to carry the craft. But
and in terms of freight, carrying weight, how do they compare? How does a comparable kayak, compare to a canoe?
Like the kayak we have, the new kayak, the Catch 120 that we just launched at ICAST, it's 69 pounds.
Okay.
When a regular canoe would be close to 85, 90 pounds. So you have like 1/3 less weight for a comparable craft.
But how about carrying weight? How about freight capacity? In other words, are they able to carry more weight or the same weight as a canoe?
You see, the canoe would carry, being a bit longer, you can probably put a bit more weight, but the typical kayak fishing like the one we have will carry about 400 pounds for a 12-foot kayak. So if you put like the fisherman and 150 pounds of gear, I think you pretty much max out. That can carry everything you need and a bit more.
Now, speaking of fishermen, and I mentioned to you, I've seen them with kayaks with live wells and electric motors and all that. Guys are really customizing these things and tricking them out. Tell us a little bit about that trend.
It seems for fishermen that's half of the fun. Like they buy their craft, then they tinker with it. There's like a bunch of companies out there that produce different material and the rails and rod holders and swivel rod holders and rail to put the equipment. So there's part of the kayak fishing is to have all the equipment around you to be able to be efficient and catch more fish. Yeah. Most of the kayak fishing now, it's not uncommon to see fish finder, GPS, the GoPro camera that is attached to it. So it almost looks like a destroyer when you see these guys do it, right?
They are really cool. I have to hand it to you. They're pretty cool looking machines when you see one all tricked out on the water and an angler, casting in some cases standing up on them. Now, you mentioned earlier on about, that you sit on top of these things. So the kayaks that we're talking about now are not the traditional kayaks where you slip inside the body of this vessel, right?
No, you're right. That's it. The kayak is made so the deck is, you can sit on top of it. And like the boat we launched at ICAST, our Catch 120, is actually a seat that has a dual position. Uh-huh. So the seat is folding, and you can put it down when you paddle, and there's a position when you can put it up when you want to fish.
Gotcha.
So, and you can also stand up. There's a strap to help you stand up, so you can stand up So the surface is very stable and flat. The other advantage is you can easily get out of the kayak and get back in. When it's a conventional kayak, it's pretty tough to get back in a kayak with a cockpit. To sit on top, you just sit sideways and you jump out, and there you go. You can go fish and access the bank.
Is there a difference in performance between the sit on top and the sit in?
If for the same haul, it'd be about the same. Okay. The biggest difference when we talk about kayak angling, we tend to make them a bit wider.
Right.
To give stability, which is the first thing that fishermen will look for. Mm-hmm. So these kayaks will be slightly slower than a kayak that is like the Catch 120 we have right now is 34 inches wide. If you look at the touring kayak, it's going to be 28 inches wide. So you can see that there's a performance difference, but you don't ask the kayak to do the same thing, of course.
Okay. Well, I got to tell you, I am really interested in these things. They're really catching on, certainly in the angling world, and they're great for kids too. And I love that part of it because it might get a kid out in the water that normally wouldn't go. And they're fantastic, and they're popping up everywhere, which is fantastic. Folks can get more information about these wonderful crafts at pelicansport.com. Or go to a local retailer marina. Seal, the outdoor superstores, are full of Pelican products. Good place to start is there. I want to thank you for joining us this morning, Andre.
No problem, Angelo. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Andre Savoie, product manager with Pelican International. This craze has taken on the fishing world by storm. Check them out.